It's number 9 size 8 ukipenda Mama Wambo aka size 8 reborn with some pale top of the hour 8 minutes past 11. And if you're tuning right now, welcome to Baze Radio .co.ke. This is in the AM with Silver Kido that happens every day of the week from Monday to Friday from 8 a.m. till 12 p.m. And finally, I have one of the best among the youth leader we have in the country. I'm talking to one and only Rev Sam Munyiri, a passionate children's ministry leader and a priest as well in the Anglican Church of Kenya Diocese over in Nairobi with more than 9 years experience. Welcome to Baze Radio .co.ke.
Thank you very much, and it's such a joy being here.
Mm-hmm.
And even as we think about our children,
yes,
it's a big blessing that I was able to come and join you. And our listener, those of us, those who are following us, we are here because of the children.
Mm-hmm.
And shouts out to ACK St. Mary's Kabete, and especially the Kenya School of Government congregation where I serve. Receive greetings. And I pray that we are going to have a blessed moment together as we have this conversation.
Amazing conversation.
Yeah.
I know you're aware it's Child Prevention, Abuse Prevention Month of April.
Yes.
I want to hear from you understanding. What do you understand by the word child abuse?
The first step maybe would be to define who a child is.
Mm-hmm.
And according to the Kenyan Act 2001, the Kenyan government defines a child as any human being under the age of 18 years.
Okay.
So when we talk about child abuse, we are talking about anybody who is below 18 years of age and below.
Mm-hmm.
And this now leads us to define what child abuse is.
Mm-hmm.
And according to the World Health Organization, child maltreatment, otherwise referred to as child abuse, and neglect includes all forms of physical and emotional ill treatment, sexual abuse, neglect, and exploitation that results in actual or potential harm to the child's health, development, or dignity. But if we bring it narrower to the Kenyan government definition, it states that child abuse includes physical, sexual, psychological, and mental injury. What I want to say is that on top of that, I would want also to add both cultural and religious abuse, because these are some of the things that are really happening and they are underrated. Because we find a lot of children who are being either culturally and religiously manipulated in ways that derive them of their dignity. And so when we talk about this, we are talking about involvement of children in activities that deprive them of their dignity.
Okay.
And I think when we say it is Child Abuse Awareness Month, we are talking about raising the awareness that it is our responsibility as humanity to take care of our children. One of the things that is a bit saddening is that in the world today, the question is not if a child will be abused. The question is when. Because these cases are very rampant, and sadly so in the safe spaces where children should be protected. And when we talk about child abuse, we are talking about things that happens in our lives, in our societies, at times in our families, at times in our religious institutions, which is very sad. And if you look at the wild animals especially, or even some domestic animals, you realize that they take care of their young ones in a very great way. Unfortunately, we have people who, instead of taking care of their children, of the children, then they do to them according to how we have defined abuse.
Okay, all right. You've had it from a well definition from Reverend. Now we're coming back with more in regards to your journey now, what inspired you as well. But for now, I've got Uriti, Kato Change, Winyo, and Suraj. Keep it locked on Baze Radio to see all the KE. It's a blazing Daniel Studio, Blaze My Room by and Nase Sari Noise right here on Baze Radio to see all the KE. 23 minutes past 11. Na Nico Daniel Studio na Rave Munyiri. Remember, it's National Child Abuse Prevention Month. So here to talk about our child, to see how we can help the society change the narrative as well. Now, Rev.
Yes.
Let's start with your journey. What drew you into children's ministry in the first place? What was the spark?
I was born and brought up in a Christian family. And I started teaching children when I was 15 years old. Actually, that's when I was licensed to teach children in our church, whatever licensing meant at that point. And after growing up, I found myself in spaces where God opened doors for me, found myself serving, found myself doing what pertains to children ministry. And even when I went to theological college, I went because the church identified that I had a gift and a passion for serving with children. The journey did not end there. I found God opening doors time and again, up to a point when God placed me in a place where my voice became global. Because for now, I am sitting in the strategic team of a movement called Global Children's Forum that comes together to ask ourselves, how can we see every child flourishing and thriving in the place where God has placed them? Yes. And so I would say that the spark of this was when I looked at how many children are there and they go to church and there's nothing that would really nurture them holistically. And I do not blame the people who did that time because that is how they knew how. But I think after I came to interact with the broader perspective of the world, I realized there's much more that needs to be done here at home. And that is where I committed. That is where I decided this is the path that I want to take. And I've seen it working as time goes by.
Talking about your path that you decided to take, you've been walking this journey for more than 9 years.
Yes.
What moments stood out for you? Are those moments heartwarming or even challenging moments that you shaped your passion and your journey as well?
I started this journey when I was a bit young because I was working full-time with the children. I was 24. And I want you to imagine a young man of 24 years who's been thrown into a space. I've been hired to become a children's pastor in one congregation called St. Andrew's in Zimmerman. I look back, I see a lot of joy because the Lord enabled us to nurture children to growth. We grew numerically. We also grew in many other ways. But I would also want to say that my experience and my wisdom those days was limited. And so as I celebrate the joy, I also appreciate the challenges that I encountered because they were learning moments for me. As I look back, I celebrate the victories of the many children who have been nurtured, the many times that we served in school ministries, but also look back maybe not in regret, but in appreciating the few challenges that I encountered. Remember, when you're dealing with people, you cannot be in a space where you're challenge-free. And so the journey has been pleasant. I've given St. Andrews as my highlight because that is where I look back and I appreciate that I joined full-time ministry. That was in 2012. And I look back and celebrate because that shaped me, that positioned me. But I look back and I wish that I was more equipped because maybe I would have done things better. Maybe I would have handled children better. Maybe I would have equipped the team that was supporting me better.
Wow.
Yes.
You've heard it from Rev Munyiri hapa ndani ya studio. Remember, Rev Munyiri is a passionate children's ministry leader from Anglican Church of Kenya, Diocese over Nairobi. We're coming back with more, but for now, I've got Just Away, Cabaret, the late, featuring Mr. V as well. In the next few, we'll talk about now the child abuse and the church role in the society. It's Monarchy, the late Benachi featuring the late Cabaret, featuring Benachi, a gospel Kenyan artist based in the United States of America. 35 minutes past 11. Na niko na a young, passionate, children's ministry leader from Anglican Church, Rev Munyiri. Rev Munyiri, now let's talk about the child, abuse and child's role. This is the month of raising awareness about child abuse. From your lens as a pastor, and children's advocate, how do you think the church can be part of the solution?
I start by saying that unfortunately the church has been one of the most underrated perpetrators of injustices. We have so many cases, true cases, because also there are speculations and accusations. Mm-hmm. But we have true cases of children who have suffered in the hands of religious men and women, sadly. The reason why this might not be well known is because in our cultures we are used to cover, we actually trained to cover up abuses because they are perpetrated by people who, if we expose, then the institution will suffer. I was reading an article that was saying that the children who have been abused could get up to 5.2 to 5 million, and that is very, very sad. But the church has a role to protect children from being abused. And this is not a role from the government, but it is a role and a mandate from God. And I want to say that the first thing that we must do is that we must prophetically address how people view children. Because I think the primary cause of abuse is because people don't value children, and people look at children from the lens other than the lenses of God. You realize that you find a 13-year-old who is being married off to a 70-year-old.
That's so sad.
You look at children who will have to bear the pain and the wounds of sexual abuse or whichever other form of abuse. Mm-hmm. Simply because it's being perpetrated by their relative, their father, their mother, their relatives who is living with them. And what happens ni inasemekana history kutoka pale nje, the family itaibika. So the church must come and talk about the value of children. The church must come so that as we prophetically speak, we can build a culture of safety for our children. Because most of the people in our country are religious, and most of them will eventually turn to the church for guidance, especially on those major matters. The other thing that we must do is we must rescue children from the hands of the oppressor. And I love it when the Bible in Jeremiah chapter 22 and verse 3 talks about those who are being robbed. Do what is just, rescue from the hands of the oppressors. I must say there are some churches who have rescue centers, but a lot of churches do not know what to do with children who are going through abuse. Mm. And in most cases, a case will be presented, and eventually the child will still go back to the same space where they are finding any form of abuse. It is the work of the church to become the rescuers of children. The church must also speak up for the victims. You know, we have many things that are happening. And unfortunately, when it comes to matters money, when it comes to matters these other things that touches on the adults, most churches are very loud. But when it comes to matters children, unfortunately, you find that most churches are either silent or at times they appear indifferent. But I wonder how it would be if every church would advocate for children. I wonder how it would be if every child had policies that protect children. I wonder how it would be if every church was actively involved in mitigating cases of abuse. And as I talk about abuse, remember I started by saying it is not just about physical abuse. Look even at religious abuse that is happening. Recently we had the issue of Shakahola, and children are not spared. We have issues of people who come and manipulate children. To me, I challenge people and tell them that even appearing before children without being properly prepared is a form of abuse. And the church must speak up for the victims. The church must be at the forefront in saying, no, this is too much, this should not happen. And even if it's not too much, this should not be happening under our watch. Then the church must also defend those who suffer from abuse or are at the risk of being abused. And by this I mean we must ensure that abuse comes to an end when it gets to us. One example that I want to give is, of course, you know that the church also plays the role of mediation. Unfortunately, you'll find I'm a pastor. When a case is presented to me, because it has been perpetrated by a gentleman that I know and I respect, a gentleman who supports the church, or someone that I do not want, as I said, unfortunately in Africa, most of the institutions have the image of the people who are leading it. Yeah. You find that justice has been diverted. You find that we do not deal with this case from the point of justice. And what happens is that we enable the perpetrator to continue doing more. We do not deal, or we do not allow the people who have been abused to go through the process of healing, because the moment we deny them justice, we definitely multiply their pain. All right.
Rev, allow me to cut you short for now. Yes. We're going to proceed with the conversation in the next few. But for now, allow us to play some music. Welcome back. That was Heartbreaker by MOG featuring Mr. V earlier on Baze Radio. .co.ke. Remember, we are celebrating children in the society. It's Child Prevention Month. April is a month whereby we celebrate our child. Now I'm being joined by Rave, children's minister. Ukipenda priest, kuna watu wanamuita pasi wa Gen Z, na tunapiga story na mbona pasi unacheka kidogo Munyiri?
Sijasikia watu wananiita hivyo, lakini maybe Noreen anaweza kuwa kiniita hivyo.
Big up to Noreen for always making things happening here at Baze Radio. Na Pasi anasema unampeana sana because leo imekuwa challenging with my producer. Having a pastor kwa radio alafu zile ngoma zetu za una hawezi cheza. But all right, don't worry, everything's sorted. Now Pasi, let's pick up from the conversation we've been having earlier on. In your experience,
yes,
what makes it hard for our children, for a child, especially in the church settings, to speak up when something is not right? As well, additional to that, sometimes we need steps, powerful steps in churches to make things right, things to be in the right space and very supportive for our children.
Now, one of the things that we realize is that children are invisible in most spaces. And children have been denied a voice. In my experience with churches, you'll find a representation from every other group in the church councils. But what happens is that children will have an adult representative. And at times, it is not usually the right people who end up in those spaces.
Hey.
The reason being, most of the churches' posts are political, where it is who is famous, it is at times who has been here longer, it is who is known. And so the voice of children is left out. Remember that children are not able to speak up for themselves in most cases. Why?
Why?
Because they are still developing. At times, they might not be in a position to think that this is wrong and this is right until they are taught. I listened to someone who went through abuse, and his was sexual abuse. And he says the reason why that happened is because he thought that is how things are done. And one, if children are invisible. Two, if children are voiceless. Three, if children are not represented or their perspective is not considered, then you realize that it will be very, very difficult for them for abuse, or for them to appear in a space where they can speak up for themselves against abuse. Remember also that most children are small in size compared to adults, and so they become victims very easily. I had mentioned earlier, but I want to say again that children are mostly abused by people who are familiar to them. It is very, 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 very rare for a stranger to just come and... Most children are abused by people that they trust. And this means that at times you'll find children are not able to do what they need to do in terms of speaking up, because it is either the parent or the cousin or the pastor or the neighbor or the chief who is doing these kinds of abuse. And of course, children are very easy to trust. I heard a story of a young girl who persevered abuse from the cousin because the cousin kept telling her, "I love you." And up to a point when she gets to an age where she could question. We do not know how long that abuse had happened, but she got to a point of questioning. And actually, it was not that she got the courage to speak up. She wrote a letter that accidentally landed in the hands of somebody who cared. Otherwise, he would still have given this letter to this cousin, and the cousin would have reassured this young girl who is maybe 12 years that I love you. That's why I do these things. That's why I touch you inappropriately. And it was up until this letter was intercepted that the parents were able to know how or what has been happening in the life of this young girl. Unfortunately, by the time they are doing this, a lot of damage psychologically has been done in the life of this child. And so it makes it very difficult for children to speak, especially when it is those people that they trust who are perpetrators of this abuse. At times, children do not know what is right or wrong. I know there are so many things that you are taught and told. And right now you look back at them at that time and you realize, hapa nilikuwa nabeba ufala. But that time you believed and you actually responded. I give you an example. You were told ukisimama kwa lightning kwa umevaa nguo ya red.
Utapigwa na radi.
Utapigwa na radi. But you look back, is that true? So I am actually giving an example of that one so that you can see how at times abuse is packaged like normal life, and children are able to swallow that bait to the point that they will go through abuse. One, they do not know where to say, because of course, you know, abuse comes with intimidation, that if you ever tell anyone, then I will come for you. If you ever let anyone
Speak
know,
up.
I am going to kill you. And so you find that children are not able to speak for themselves because of all those other reasons that I mentioned, then plus fear. Because most children are fearful. If you tell a child that a chicken will eat them or bite them, that is what they'll grow up believing. And so that is one of the reasons why it makes abuse to go unnoticed in the society. The other thing is that most institutions don't have policies that protect children. And so I will volunteer myself to work with the children, but there's nobody who has checked my background. There's nobody who has interviewed me. There's nobody who has cared to know where I came from. And we have cases of people who hop from one church to the other, or one institution to the other, or from one school to the other, abusing children. And I think it is the high time that institutions, including religious institutions, come up with policies that safeguard children, come up with things that will make sure that our children are safe. They come up with programs that sensitizes children on what abuse is. Children should grow up knowing what an appropriate touch is. Children should grow up knowing who should hug them. Children should grow up knowing how a polite or a safe hug appears or looks like. Children should grow up learning that they should not be in seclusion with anyone, and especially when they are alone. And I think if the church can be in the forefront in advocating for child safety and protection policies, then I think we'll be at a place where we find ourselves doing very well. And I want to appreciate one organization called the Child Safety and Protection Network, because they are doing really, really well. They have actually provided policies that other churches can or institutions can adopt. They have developed manuals that can be used to train the public on what child safety and protection is. And if this happens, then we are able to be people who are proactive in guiding, in safeguarding the children from abuse of whichever form. I also think that the other thing that the church must do is to ensure that we have partnerships with other organizations that work towards the welfare of children. What happens is that most of the times you'll find most entities working in seclusion. And unfortunately, when you are alone, you can only do this much. It is about time that we came together and amplified our voices together. It is about time when we forgot some of our boundaries and some of our limits, so that we can come together and combine forces with government, parachurch organizations, other institutions who carry God's heart for children, so that we are sure, or we are working towards ensuring that children are operating in safe spaces.
Amen to that now. Rev, as we wind up, where can people find you and support you?
I serve in this diocese, or the Anglican Diocese of Nairobi, and right now I am serving in a church called, a parish called St. Mary's in Kabete. That's where we worship with Noreen. And if anyone would want to reach out, my WhatsApp number is 0708 340 165.
165.
Yes.
On the social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok,
Sam Munyiri on Facebook, Sam Munyiri. On Instagram, Sammy Munyiri. On TikTok, Sammy Munyiri.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Rev. I want to send greetings to all the people who carry God's hearts from Children's Laid by the Children's Ministers workers from Nairobi Diocese and Global Children's Forum as well. I want a big shout out to your lovely wife, Waturi, and kids who are listening right now, Sifa, Ahadi, and Aziz. To your colleagues as well, Clergy led by Bishop Right Reverend Jonathan Kabiru. To all the listeners of Baze Radio .co.ke, thanks for your time. Let's link up tomorrow, same time, same place. Keep it locked on Baze Radio .co.ke.
This is Baze Radio. We are 254 to the core.